fire in the Luftleiter hole. Let's bake a cake. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome once again to my backyard barbecue grill. We're doing something a little bit different today. We're making dessert. And I'm hoping that this will be a fancy enough dessert to use for the holidays, if you know what I mean. It's Christmas. Merry Christmas. What I got is about 8 Granny Smith apples that I peeled and cored and sliced up in my bowl. I'm going to put about a cup of brown sugar on there. About a cup of brown sugar in my apples. I'm going to stir that up, break up that brown sugar a little bit. It's a little hard. Get that stirred up, get that covered in my apples, all covered in brown sugar. I think I might need a little bit more brown sugar than that. Anyway, you want your apples covered in brown sugar. You could use apples out of a can, you know, canned apples, but I've got fresh apples, and that's what I'm using. Fresh Granny Smith apples. Took about 8 of them. They're small. That's why I took so many. Let's put a little bit more brown sugar on there. I'm calling that a cup of brown sugar on my apples. And we're going to get them all covered with that brown sugar. Sweeten up them apples a little bit. And then I'll show you, here's the kicker for this recipe. Let's get that brown sugar on there. Get it all. When I put the other stuff on there, it should all chill out. We got some Fireball cinnamon flavored whiskey. This is whiskey with natural cinnamon flavor. And I gotta tell you, I tasted this stuff and it is gross. I don't know how people drink this. But I'm gonna put about a cup of this Fireball whiskey in here. Maybe more than a cup. Maybe a cup and a half, I don't know. But what I'm gonna do is, we're gonna let those apples sit in that whiskey and brown sugar mix, like that. And we're gonna let them marinate in there, let them soak up that whiskey. Don't that look good already? I tell you, it smells good, but that stuff is not drinkable. I don't know how people drink it. If anybody in my audience likes this stuff, likes to drink this cinnamon Fireball whiskey, let me know in the comments. Whoa, does that smell? Oh boy, you can smell the alcohol in that. Anyway, we're gonna let the apples marinate in that. I think I got enough whiskey in there. That's about a cup of whiskey. A cup of that Fireball whiskey and a cup of brown sugar. And we're gonna let the apples sit in that for a while. And then we're gonna get this cake together. And it's basically a dump cake, a very simple recipe. And we're gonna put it on the grill and cook it. And no beer today. I'm gonna drink a cup of coffee with my cake when I get ready to do the taste test. So let me get my apples marinating. We'll pop them in the fridge for a while, and then we'll come back and put this cake together. So stay tuned. Okay, I got a cake pan out here, and I got my apples been marinating for about 45 minutes in that whiskey and brown sugar. We're gonna just dump those right into the cake pan like that. Oh yeah. Okay. Just spread those out a little bit. Get that sugar and cinnamon flavored whiskey in there. Probably could stir that up a little bit more, but it's okay. That's fine. Just want to spread that out into a thin layer, or a layer anyway, at the bottom of this cake. Apples. There you go. Okay. Now we've got some more cinnamon to put on. Even though that liquor had cinnamon in it, I'm still going to sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon on top of the apples just to make sure we've got the cinnamon flavor going in this, and I think we do. I think we've got the cinnamon flavor covered in this thing. What we need is a little bit more sweetener. I've got some caramel syrup. And what I'm going to do is layer this caramel syrup on top of the apples like this. I'm going to save a little bit for the final presentation too. Get some of that caramel syrup on the apples. That's going to be a sweet dessert, delicious caramel apple Fireball whiskey dump cake. There we go. Okay, that's enough caramel. I spilled it everywhere. Now I've got one of these cake mixes. Cake mix from Duncan Hines, classic cake mix, and we're going to dump that on top of the apples. And I have to get that spread out on top of the apples. So I want to kind of do this like artistically, you know what I'm saying? Artistically, please. Child, please, honey, hush. Artistically, I never done anything artistically in my whole life. Okay, yeah. There you go. You want to put that whole thing of cake mix on top of the apples. And then I'm going to take my spatula. What a mess. You know I'm no baker, right? We're just going to smooth that out. See, this is what I'm bad at. I'm bad at stuff like this, smoothing stuff out. I'm gonna smooth that out on top of the apples, like that. Isn't that pretty? Don't that look good already? Looks good enough to eat. Yes, sir. This is gonna be a fancy dessert. You're gonna see, I'm gonna fancy this thing up. First, we gotta cook it. Okay, so we got the cake mix, sort of, kind of fancied out, don't you think? Let's get over here where you can see that. Okay. And now I've got 2 sticks of butter that I cut into pats. We're going to put pats of butter on top of that cake mix. 2 sticks of butter, 2 whole sticks of butter. That's a lot of butter, huh? It sounds like a lot of butter, but it's not really. What it comes down to is it's dessert, right? You want it to be fattening. If it wasn't fattening, it wouldn't be dessert. So let's get our butter put out like that. Another artistic endeavor for me, butter pats. Hope it works out right. I don't even know how many there are, or how, what. You know, I wanted to cover the cake because I want it to melt evenly on top of the cake mix, so that it will, you know, cause the cake mix to like turn into cake. Turn into cake. Whoops. Oh boy. Butter's starting to get warm. Starting to get a little warm. It was cold when I took it out of the fridge, but now it's starting to warm up a little bit. 2 whole sticks of butter. People are saying, wow, he's got all that caramel, all that butter. This is going to be a fattening. Yeah, it's cake. It's dessert. Of course it's fattening. You know? If it wasn't, you wouldn't eat it. You'd be like, oh, this isn't very fattening. But there it is. Hey, I had enough. I had a perfect amount of butter, except I got 1 left over. I got 1 pat of butter left over. What should I do with it? I'll just stick it right here. How about that? Okay, that's it. That's it. All I got to do is put that on the grill and let that cook. Probably take about an hour at about 350 degrees. And then we'll come back. We'll scoop out a bunch of that and we'll put it in a plate and eat it. And we'll drink some coffee instead of beer. Because who's going to drink beer with cake? Although I did have a beer that I could use for this dessert beer. But we're not going to do that. We're going to drink coffee. So stay tuned. My Fireball apple cobbler is finished. And as promised, I've got my Skyrim mug out here full of coffee. And that's Rolf. And he's saying, hey you, you're finally awake. That's what he says to me every morning. Let me get a sip of coffee. I can't wait to try this. It looks great. I hope that Fireball liqueur didn't overpower it with the cinnamon. Let me get some of that in my mouth. Look at that. Don't that look good? Oh man. That's excellent. That's great. The cinnamon, even though I added cinnamon to it, it's not overpowering. This would be good with some vanilla ice cream. That is excellent. Rolf, let me get a sip of coffee, Rolf. That's Rolf. He's in the wagon with me in Skyrim. We're being taken to have our heads chopped off. If you've never played Skyrim, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Anyway, babies, that's my video. Fireball apple cobbler cooked on the grill, and I think it's fancy enough to serve at Christmas dinner, don't you? It came out beautiful, really, seriously. Anyway, we'll see you next week, babies. Merry Christmas, everybody. Rolf says, Merry Christmas, join the Stormcloaks. If you know what I'm talking about. Let me eat that cherry before I forget. Oh, that is so good. I'm having dessert before I even had dinner. Anyway, babies, Merry Christmas, everybody. See you next week. Bye.